So it's back to me, the other Jakob. And I'm again going to show a notebook from the AMPEL contrib sample GitHub repository. Unfortunately, it seems like these won't run in Colab since they require Python 3.8, and I just learned that that's not available there. But anyway, they are very straightforward to analyze in a Python 3.8 environment. So do head here and check them out. So what I'll be doing here is to demonstrate how you can develop a real-time science study using AMPEL directly in your local laptop. I'll have a Strawman Extragalactic example case, but it can of course be extended to everything. So as a random case, I thought about trying to look for interacting two ends similar to 09 IP that has a weird light curve, and investigate whether that interaction could have something to do with the extragalactic neutrino flux. So that's kind of a background idea, how typically our science projects start. So what would we do out of that? A brief reminder that in AMPEL, processing is divided into these 4 executable layers. So you'll see these T0 to T3 appear. So we'll be running locally. So let's import and set up AMPEL. I'll be parsing a small alert archive. So this is just what's included in the GitHub repository. But one can, of course, train on any sample. And I think the next section will be about training and validation. And this is one way to do that in AMPEL. You develop your program and you train on fixed alert collections until you're happy. We want to have a logger. And then we want to do a first filter of our data. So this is calling or instantiating a unit that does a fairly straightforward filtering of alerts, similar to what we saw, for example, for Antares. So there's a number of properties that are basic extractions of the light curve that you can use. So you can check that up. And let's start an alert processor that will go through these and evaluate them and save some information. And in the end, some of them will have passed our detection thresholds. But this is just a first cut. So what we really want to do is to look for these 09 IP-like objects. So a kind of a crude way to do this, and let's try it out, would be to compare the template fits, say between 09 IP and a 1A model that might be our most prominent background model. So let's set this up. We'll instantiate these 2 models using SN-Cosmo in this case. We'll do this in a special method that's inheriting from an abstract class. The main thing is that you need to have a run method. This will be executed for each transient. And you'll then be provided with the light curve, which contains the photometric evolution of the object. As a first step, we'll just convert this into a photometric table as suitable for use by SN-Cosmo. And we'll simply do a first template fit. We'll do a second template fit, save the quality of those fits. And in the end, make a very crude assessment of whether this particular candidate fulfills our criteria. If the fit is too bad, we'll skip it. If it turns out that a 1A fit is much, much better, we'll also skip the event. But if it passes these 2 criteria, we'll say that the model matches and it's a good match and something that we, in the end, for example, want to get a spectrum of. Assuming it's also associated with a neutrino match. So we'll set this up. This is our analysis unit. Now we'll go through and process all our accepted alerts from the initial filter process. So it's going to take a minute or so to go through them and carry out the calculation. We'll store the output. So now I'm running this locally in a laptop in a full AMPEL system. This would be stored into the database. So these are this is a T2 unit. So these are T2 results that we get. Now here I'm just saving them locally. And let's then print the fits that we deem good according to this criteria. And they are not particularly impressive, but I mean, this was just a random sample of alerts, so this is not too surprising. Oh, sorry, let's skip down here. But in the end, we have an analysis unit. It's a strawman unit, but still it's doing the kind of scientific analysis that we're used to, and it's producing some output. So where do we go from there? Well, the first thing we can do is to store this unit as a single method in our GitHub repository. And in this way, we can publish it if we want to. We tag a version so that we can specifically return to or designate the version that was in production at any given time. So the method I showed before, I've saved under this name, so we can look at the actual code. It's pretty much doing exactly the same as before, so not as interesting. I did want to highlight the other T2 that Jakob demonstrated in the multi-messenger session, but did not get to show. That has a very similar structure, except that there we initiated a dummy selection region for a multi-messenger event. But in principle, we do exactly the same thing here with this units that we're now drawing from our GitHub repository. We can still do our fits, and it will return the same values, which is not surprising. Okay, so why did we go through this exercise of defining this unit and saving it, making it available? The reason to set it up this way is that once you've done that, you can describe your scientific program based on this sort of analysis schema or a scientific schema. So this is a configuration file, and we can briefly look at what it contains. It has a name, of course, some contact person. It then lists all the units that you want to be executed. So in this case, we had initial filter with some parameter. We did some computations. This template comparison with specific links to some templates. This multi-messenger matching unit that we also used. And then in the end, this was, as Jakob mentioned before, we selected events that matched our, where the target match was evaluated to true, and then we would, in a T3 unit, export these events for spectroscopic classification. So I just wanted to demo this kind of strawman scientific program. And once it is there, the convenient way is that, first of all, you can just upload this into the live AMPEL instance, which will then be exposed to the full alert stream. And in some sense, there will be nothing you have to do, no IPA connections you need to make. Your program will be running live. And second of all, it gives you a way to compactly summarize your full science program. All your scientific choices are available here in a way where it can be exported, referenced, included in publications, and so forth. Okay, thanks for listening. There are more tutorials here, so you check them out if you have questions or contact us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think we need to continue on. If you've got questions, again, please post them in the Slack channel.